Hello and welcome again to another episode of One Starfish, where our mission is to help change the world one starfish or one person at a time. As always, make sure to rate, review, subscribe, share. Really appreciate you guys getting the word out. I'm excited for our guest today. Lori and I just officially finally met. But this lady's amazing. Let's see if I can get this right. She does Advanced Spiral Practitioner in human trafficking, domestic violence, abuse, all of that kind of stuff that is really needed. So I'm excited to get into that. Since 2019, married, 2 grown kids, loves to travel, amazing lady, beautiful. If you're not watching this, watch it. Great to have you on, Lori.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I can't believe it. Finally, we were just talking about it. Finally, we are meeting. It's been something that's been coming, I feel. So
I love it. That's super cool. Awesome. Well, let's get into things. So, tell us a little bit about your journey from start to finish, from where you started, and what got you into what you're doing. And that's the biggest thing. Is like, what got you into where you're at right now with the business and stuff? What got you down that track?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's always interesting when people find out what I do and then they're like, wait, what? This is a little different. A lot of people don't specialize in these areas. And so, um, well, I am a survivor of domestic violence of an extreme situation and had zero clue, zero clue that I was in a toxic relationship, an unhealthy relationship, let alone a violent one, abusive, all of those things. And I started going down this route. It's one of these things where I think a lot of people don't understand and realize what happens in these situations. We're so used to seeing like the ad council campaigns of the billboards and the battered woman in the corner crouching and scared or whatever. Well, all those, those ad campaigns that we all
Mhm.
know. I did not identify with that at all. I've always been a very strong, independent woman, confident, career driven, and never identified with what that looked like.
Mm.
And whenever I finally, it was literally when my children were gone. My children had been taken. They don't know that they had been taken. We talk about it now, now that they're adults and they don't know that they were taken. They just went with dad. But they were taken from me and I didn't know where they were. And it was when I went into the organization that actually gives custody and all of that. It's called DCFS here in Utah. I went to that organization and said, hey, I just want to let everyone know that if something gets reported, I am looking for my children. And I went in just like this. Just it was like my lunch break.
By the
And
way, my
yeah,
kids
it's
are
okay.
missing.
Yeah, they're gone. And they're like, wait, they didn't understand. They thought I was lying. They didn't believe me, all of those things. Finally, they realized what was happening, whisked me into like a room and literally in black and white on a whiteboard start to show me the, describing abusive relationships. And I had all of them, like everything was going on there. So it took a long time for me to even realize what was happening. That was clear back in like 2004. And then fast forward, now I'm married, healthy relationship, awesome, amazing. The abuse actually still keeps going because we're co-parenting. So the abuse still happens. Still don't realize how extreme it is until, because when you're in it, you just don't get
Mm.
it. You don't get it. You don't see it. You're in it.
Mm.
And it wasn't until, I don't know, probably 2018 or something like that, that I was actually helping somebody else go get through their situation. And they had said, it was a serious situation. They needed help. So I said, you know what, let's go to the shelter. I've never gone to the shelter. I'll go with you. I'll act like this is, I'm doing this with you. I've never gotten help or anything, even though I was in this healthy relationship now, this healthy marriage. I said, let me go with you. I'll just support you. And I'm literally reading this clipboard, right? This form on a clipboard, and I'm filling it out. And there's this one part that says, check all the boxes that you've experienced, you or your children have experienced in the last 48 hours. And I literally checked every single box except for surviving a homicide, attempted homicide. And I went, oh my gosh, here I am, how many years later, in a healthy marriage, in a healthy relationship,
Hmm.
not in that other relationship anymore, yet we are all still experiencing all of these things. My children were, I was. And so then they whisk me back into another room. And I sit there and I go, oh man, I am really, really good at being calm in the chaos. And so just I sat in front of somebody again, just like this, and I'm talking to them. And I said, you have an entire waiting room full of people that need your help right now. And I'm good. I'm okay. So I don't necessarily need your help. Again, in denial a little bit in my head, going, wow, I can't believe this is happening. But also, we're good. We're fine.
Right.
And then, anyway, started on my journey. That's actually when I realized, oh, there's some stuff going on here. So I started to heal and started to look at different methods. I'm somebody that goes way against the grain. If if like everyone's over here, I'm over here. If they're walking this way, I'm walking that way. And so when it came to talk therapy or anything like that, that was something that didn't resonate with me. It wasn't something that I wanted to do. I tried it a couple of times and all it did was just reactivate me. Like I was just reliving experiences. And then here after 45 minutes, all of a sudden I'm on my own until the next session, which is 2 months later. And anyway, it just wasn't good. I didn't like it at all. And so I started looking at alternative methods. And so I found and discovered body talk therapy, which I don't know if you know about that.
No.
Yeah, I found all of these methods of healing that is not reliving. It's releasing emotions from the body. So there was body talk therapy. Then there was rapid eye technology. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Heard of these names, but not like haven't done them. So not
Yeah.
close.
Yeah. So with rapid eye technology, they use like this wand and you follow the ball on the wand and your eyes do all these movements and it releases memories and stuck emotions and things like that from the brain. So it
Sounds fun.
rewires the brain. Yeah. And again, not reliving anything, right? So, and then I loved those modalities, but I found myself continuing to go back. Then I discovered the spiral. The spiral is a modality where you get directly to the root of your imprints, the root of why we always fight, like, why have I ended up in this situation? That was me. I'm a strong, independent woman. I'm
Mhm.
not that one. I didn't identify with that woman at all. Like, how
Mhm.
did I end up in these situations? And anyway, we just started unweaving from the root of all that. And it comes down to conditioning and how we're raised and our ancestry and our culture of our ethnics and background and all of that stuff. So anyway, found that and it's been I can't even explain. It's been such a transformational journey since then. And so because of that, it catapulted me into this whole other authentic life now that's so elevated. I can't even explain it. It's not hard. I guess maybe we can talk about that a little more, but that's how I ended up in the spiral. As soon as I was a really good client until I became the spiral. Like I crossed paths with the spiral. That's what I'm trying to say. Crossed paths with that. And then I went, oh my gosh, this has to get out to everyone. So dove deep into that. And now I specialize in that because just like what you were saying in 2020, I mean, so much happened when it came to trauma and domestic violence and now trafficking is actually mainstream. Back when I first started, a lot of people didn't even know they
Mhm.
didn't quite understand all the human trafficking. But
So I'm curious, how did you manage to be in this situation, and then also be in a healthy marriage? Like, most people, when they're in an unhealthy situation, they continue from unhealthy situation to unhealthy situation. So what do you think like caused you to be able to actually be in a healthy relationship after that unhealthy relationship?
I had a couple. I had a couple that were in
Okay.
between my divorce and then my marriage now. I really have to give a lot of credit to my very first relationship, the man that I was in a relationship with, because I didn't know what healthy relationships were. I had been with my first husband since I was 19. So it was 11 years that we were together, super young. And I honestly didn't know. And if we go even back further than that, same thing, like relationships. I didn't have very many relationships, but I mean, when you're young and you're starting to see other people and things like that, same thing was happening. Then I was in this first relationship after my divorce, and I took a long time to really get to know myself first. Also, it was a very intense time. So, anyone who was going to be sharing a life with me, they were going to be experiencing some stuff that that they probably only saw in the movies. So, for him, it was really amazing because he would very gently and lovingly tell me how the way that I was, I guess, participating in this relationship wasn't the norm. And one of the first things that this is, if for listeners out there, if you don't know if you are in a relationship that's unhealthy or abusive in any way or controlling, one of the things was I had to share every second of every minute of my day. So when he would ask me, how are you? How was your day? I would literally tell him everything from the time I woke up until the time that I spoke to him. And every little detail. And it would be like a 10-minute answer to this question. And finally he said, I don't really need to know every detail of your day. I was just asking,
It's your day.
how was your day? Yeah. But I was used to doing that because I would get timed when I went to grocery stores. I got questioned every single time that something took longer than expected. I mean, so I was conditioned to respond that way.
Hmm.
And so there was a lot of things like that that made me go, okay, so this is different. I'm not used to this. And also, get this, this was one of those things I was so used to it that I I actually would think that he didn't care about me as much as he did. Because when you're in an abusive relationship, you're used to love bombing. So you're used to like over the top. I want to know everything about your day. Like you're so important to me that I really want to hear about all this. But really it's just love bombing and it's a tactic to get you to want to open up. There's a lot of strategies and tactics that go along with all of
Yeah,
this.
control.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. So what are some things that, if someone's listening to this, what are some things that, I don't know, that they can do that would help them if they're in a situation like that? I mean, obviously, if it's really dangerous, please seek help, call 911, do whatever, go to the shelter, do the things. But let's say it's not like that to that degree. What are some things that help people, I guess, go get through their situation and maybe come out better? I don't know how to put it.
Mhm. I know. I know. It's so interesting. Um, I think the first thing, honestly, I have a YouTube channel it's called Red Lotus Life.
Okay.
And we do that because what we've discovered as we've started deepening the work that we do. And I say we because on Red Lotus Life, I actually have a co creator. Her name is Sarah Elizabeth Hoffman. She's also a spiral practitioner, and she is also a womb spiral practitioner. So she works with sexual abuse and things like that.
Yeah.
So we had a community, a Facebook group. What we discovered is that the more that we deepen, especially in the human trafficking, working with human trafficking survivors, that it's just not safe for people to have social media accounts. And so we moved everything in 2023 onto YouTube. And on YouTube, we actually have a whole resource playlist that you can go, and there's resources out there that are global, because a lot of we are global with our clients as well. So you can go there and you can see there's even a playlist on narcissism, because a lot of times it's narcissistic abuse. It kind of starts out that way, and then it can get even more extreme. So, and it goes into all the other ways. So we actually have a self-aware narcissist that we're doing a series with. His name is Ennis Barger. And that is actually the work that he does, is to kind of even share these tactics, because they are so textbook. So we have lots of resources there with BACA, that's Bikers Against Child Abuse, all the shelters. But I will tell you, it's hard. I know a lot of people say call 911 and all of that. I have never once, not once, have I called law enforcement. There was one time that I did go and seek a protective order. And I think this was when, I'm trying to even remember when, because there's so much that happened. I think this was when we were going through our separation. And he showed me how a piece of paper does not protect me.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where if you do call the police, sometimes that puts you in more danger. So honestly, I think the first thing is just starting to be aware, starting to educate yourself on what is healthy, what's not healthy.
So what are some signs, jump in here, what are some signs of a narcissist if someone just starting to date one? Because I've heard this, like, this is a common one, I believe. What are some actual signs? Because a lot of people are like, he's a narcissist. And I don't know if like they actually are. Like, it's also a phrase that I think gets tossed a lot if they're kind of like a jackass or something. But like, what actually is a narcissist, and how would you know if you're dating one or starting to see one?
Oh man, first signs. Yep, I can definitely tell you that. We actually have a whole episode on just the
And we'll have
first
all of
signs.
this in the show notes, guys. So make sure to check out the YouTube.
Yeah, there's like a whole thing, because it's true. You don't know. So they end up playing by different rules than everyone else. That's the number one thing. And that's why we don't know. And everyone always gets so blindsided. And I do feel just like you do, narcissist is really thrown around a lot right now. And I actually have quite a bit of empathy and sympathy now that I'm starting to understand on a deep level that personality type. So the first thing, they are going to love bomb. I don't know if we can swear on this show. They're just going to really love bomb you. Okay. So,
we got the idea.
Yeah. If you don't know what love bombing is, that's just, it's over the top. It's that romance movie, the romance novel, the stuff that you're like, this never happens. This never happens. It's the songs, it's the flowers, it's just over the top everything, romance and compliments and they just kind of come in and sweep you off your feet. So that's number one. The second one is they'll start to show jealousy, but the jealousy will be out of love for you. And I'm just trying to be your protector, and I'm just trying to, I'm just here for you. It's like ride or die type stuff. And then that kind of shifts into, it's like us against the world type things, where they start to isolate you. So all of a sudden, like the friends who start to say, sure about this person, or the family members, then they'll start to isolate you from that. And it's so subtle, because it turns into, well, I'm with you every single day, and they're just jealous of our relationship and all of that. Everything is I can't even get over it, because it's also a pattern that you see. Once you have it in your awareness, you start to see the pattern in the different people and in the different relationships. Pretty soon you don't get to go anywhere by yourself, and it's just because they want to be with you all the time. And and then they just start to know everything about you, but they fish for information. And if you have someone that they think is a threat in any way to them, they will completely, they'll paint a different picture. They'll start to distort that friend. They'll start to say what they see in the friendship that you have with them, or how they may not be good for you. And anyway, it's just very, very interesting what happens.
So, I mean, if someone like, because this almost makes a person really cynical. So, if someone goes over the top and is just a really good person, 'cause I do believe there are really good people that really do go over the top. At the beginning, is there anything that could you tell in the first like little bit the difference, or not really? Like, you really don't figure it out until they start switching.
It happens so subtle that I know it does. It sounds really cynical. You're right.
Because I'm like, well, then no guy that gives me flowers, I'm like, woo, you're out. Like I know that can't be a thought process. So like,
Yeah.
where's the difference between the one that are just really romantic and are, they've been raised that way to do all the things, and then the one that's like not.
Yeah. It's basically if you can still continue to live your life and have a life that's kind of separate from them,
Hmm.
that's when you know.
And you can
When
know
they're
that pretty soon
Yeah, and you can know that pretty
when they're
soon.
messaging you 30 times a day and
Yeah.
posting some of this on my storyline. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. So it's basically when you're going on a trip with your friends and they're, "Oh, well, can I come?" Or, you'll start to see how they just begin to
Hmm.
insert you into or insert them into your life. And they really want it. So if you're no longer able to take the trips by yourself with your friends or your family even, or go to dinner or whatever that may be, that's when you start there's some red flags for
Hmm.
sure. Mhm.
Okay. Well, I've seen them. That's for sure. Um,
Yeah.
that's great. Okay, so let's say someone's in one of these situations now. What are some ways? Like, how does the therapy that you do? How does it help someone get out over that, or move on from that? I guess.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question because it literally, the average person, it takes them 7 times before they will leave a relationship, 7 times before they finally leave the relationship.
Hmm.
And so this is a really good question because there's a pattern and just like what you said, they find themselves in these other relationships. So the work that I do, we go through the 22 most common human emotions and we decondition those emotions. So then you are coming from a place of response versus reaction. So the biggest thing that I can say um, that might help people understand is how you have like the toddler in the grocery store. We've all seen the toddler in the grocery store and they're reaching for the candy, and the mom or the dad is saying, "No, you can't have that." And they reach for it again. "No, you can't have that." And then smack, "Now you can't have that. You can't have it." Now the baby is crying, frustrated, angry. They just, may have gotten a slap on the hand. So there's pain there. They're expressing that. And now they're being told, shh, because it's in public. You can't act this way in public. Now, all this stuff. We've all seen it. It all happens.
Hmm.
So, what tends to happen when we are conditioned in this way? So, we're going back to like stuff. Root stuff, we find ourselves in these situations because this is how we've been conditioned. I am half Japanese. So I was raised, no one sees you break. So that's why nobody actually believed me and what was happening in my home whenever I did start to speak out about it because nobody saw me break. And then yeah, we're also taught not to go after our desires in a situation like that. Whenever you see the toddler, like I want something, you can't have it. When you are in an abusive situation, the conditioning starts to come on pretty heavy, pretty thick. It's subtle in the beginning and then it can get more extreme. I mean, obviously, if you're experiencing that right away, you're not going to be in a relationship like that.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
They throw you up
yeah,
against a wall or something in the first meeting. Probably not going to happen.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. So basically, we go through and we get to the root cause of we ever ended up in these situations first. When when I started doing this work, I thought for sure it was going to be all about the marriage and the things that I experienced there. But no, it actually went clear back to the roots of my childhood and how I was raised and also the culture of my family on my maternal side, my paternal side, and just the things that I experienced. So when I was young, I was a year and a half. That's when my father passed away unexpectedly. Then here I am raised in a Japanese, very structured background, and you do what you're told. And honestly, if you are an open-hearted, kind person, which I feel like most people are, even people who experience narcissistic tendencies are as well. So I want to put that out there because it's it's that's actually, if people go on and they watch that playlist, then they'll see what happens in the mind of a narcissist or someone who has those tendencies. And it's quite hard to witness. But when we do this work, we are no longer, we're deconditioning the reaction. And we are starting to now connect authentically with the response. And so we start to respond to life in a totally different way than the way that we were conditioned. And so a lot of times it's our 2-year-old, who's the toddler in the store, that actually is reacting to the things in our life as an adult. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, gotta get through that 2-year-old.
Yeah, they're running the show, and so we need to show we decondition by releasing these reactions, and now we begin to actually respond in a totally different way.
Cool. I like it. That's awesome. Well, guys, if you're listening, like I said, all the stuff will be in the show notes. Definitely check out some of Lori's work and what she's doing and, see if it can help you or help someone and if you have questions, obviously reach out. We'll have always Lori's information in the show notes. In wrapping up, I always have 3 final questions and then anything we didn't touch on that you think would be really impactful for our listeners. The first and final question is, if someone's looking for their purpose, what's one sentence you could say that could help them find their purpose?
I would say look at your past experiences. If you look at your past experiences and the hardest and most challenging times of your life, that is where you will find the gift. I feel as if every single person in this world, we have the experiences for our growth, our soul evolution, and to learn from, honestly. And nothing that comes our way is ever too much. We can always handle what that is. And so it's really finding the gift in these experiences and shifting it into empowerment, because that's 100% what happened with me. And now I'm working with visionary leaders around the world who have experienced the exact same things. And we're actually catapulting them into sharing their gifts and their purpose. So I think a lot of times we look at these dark times, or what we think of dark and heavy times, as issues or challenges or problems or trauma, but actually it's the gift, and it will catapult you into your purpose.
Awesome. Number 2 question, what's a favorite quote and why?
Oh, I have it right here on my vision board right in front of me. Dr. Joe Dispenza. Are you familiar with him?
Sure am.
Okay. The best way to predict your future is to create it.
True story. I love it. And number 3 final question, what's one word or sentence you want on your gravestone?
Create a tsunami of change.
I like that. That's cool. All right. You run into someone in the coffee shop and they're like, hey, Lori, like I listened to that podcast. It was, great. I'm working on, not being with a narcissist or getting through some traumatic thing, or I know someone that is, whatever their story is. What's something that we didn't touch on that you think would be really impactful to leave our listeners with?
To not let shame or guilt be what keeps you in those situations. A lot of times there's a lot of shame that happens with that. And what I've found and discovered, the more that, as I do this work and around the world, and a lot of people are in denial of this. And so this may actually be, a lot of people will disagree, but every single person has experienced abuse of some kind, whether that's financial, physical, emotional, all of it in some way, fashion, or form. Regarding, it can be domestically within the family. It can also just even be religious abuse or something else. We've all experienced that. And there is a lot of shame that actually comes with that. I mean, that was the thing for me was no way was I going to let people know that this was happening in my home. Like what the first thing is like, what will people think? And so just really allowing yourself to let go of that, because when we let go of that shame or even guilt as a parent for staying in a relationship like that, and a lot of times, like I was there for 11 years. And so now there has been things that my children are now moving through, what they experienced and what they witnessed. And so if also just letting that go too, because everyone has experienced this on some level, maybe not at the level that I did, but in some level. And when we let go of shame and guilt, that's when we can actually thrive. That's when we can grow. So, and heal. That's the biggest thing is heal and be in a sovereign state.
Good. I love it. Well, guys, I know you'll, share this. There's people that need this. If it's not you per se, there's people you know. So definitely please share this episode. Let's get out there. Let's change the world one starfish or one person at a time. If we can change one life at a time together, we can change the world. Thanks for being on, Lori.
Thank you. It was an honor.